UnitedWeStart. We explore the New World Order, finance, science, health and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you.
Hello and welcome to the United We Start Roundtable. It's Saturday the 11th of August 2011. Thanks to everyone that's tuning in. You have myself, Alan James from Open Your Mind Radio. You have my co-host, Stephen George. And you have Matt Navarro from the New World Order Report. You have Michael and Detlev from Wake News. And our special guest on the show today is Ollie Dammegard. So before we get on and start speaking to Ollie about what's been going on, we just pass around the table and get everybody to say hello, where they're from, and their information. So over to you, Matt. Let's start with you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's Matt Navarro from the New World Order Report. My website is nwodor.com, nwodor.com. Hop on over there and click on the podcast archive page. There is a library of information and education for you. A lot of timeless information about how to stay healthy or who is the New World Order, and all that good background for you. So get on over there, and I'm glad to be here with you all this month, August 2018.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Since here it is already 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. I am also a staff member of Wake News, and I try to explain the situation of the world order and all that background on a spiritual aspect of what happens in the world, about forces and beings which are non-physical, and their agenda, what they're doing, and especially the machination of Ahriman, and the way that they want to interpret and make human beings to become like machines. That is a danger. I don't see the danger in machines becoming humans. I see the danger in humans becoming machines. And so I discuss these issues mostly.
Brilliant. Okay, Steve.
Yeah, I'm Stephen George, and as Alan mentioned at the top of the show, I am a co-host on Open Your Mind Internet Radio, where we have guests on from all walks of life and all professions. We try to find out exactly what is going wrong in the world today and how we can actually go about fixing it. We kind of cover all different subjects. Nothing really is taboo, and all our shows and podcasts can be found on our website, and that is www.oymradio.com.
Brilliant. Cheers, Steve. And Detlev.
Yes, hi. It's Detlev here of Wake News Radio, Wake News TV. We are broadcasting usually in German on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we have special shows on several days. Michael is one of our team, and we are focusing on the New World Order and all the bad things happening. And our range is from whatever you want to the Vatican. The Vatican is usually the point of evil as we know it here on Earth. But anyways, we are looking forward to this fantastic roundtable discussion here with Ollie Dammegard. And we should get him on and talk about him and what he's done so far. Ole.
That's it. That's the next thing we're going to do. And our special guest is Ollie Dammegard. Ollie, thanks a lot for coming on to the Radio Roundtable and having a chat with all of us. I'm sure the discussion is going to be very interesting this evening. Before we get into anything, just in case people haven't heard of you, can you give us your bio and a bit of background about yourself?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show, and good to meet you all. I don't know what to say. I've devoted some 35 years of my life exposing top political assassinations and false flag operations around the world. I've done some between 500 and 1,000 international interviews, and I've done presentations in many countries around the world with the intention of exposing what's actually going on, the templates that are being used against us, how to see how we're being fooled, because this is done through deception. There's so many different layers of these psyops, and so with the intention of love, forgiveness, harmony, and unity, I try to do my absolute utmost in a fearless exposure of these very dark forces. So that's about it. My website is Light on Conspiracies. This is exactly what I'm trying to do, shine the light on these conspiracies, totally non-violent, but this laser-like focus on what's going on behind the scenes, undercover, black ops, and so on, with the absolute intention of transcending this whole thing, because we need to stop this madness, and the way to do it is to become aware and then do our utmost in lifting this world to the next level.
Yeah, there's an awful lot going on, and I'd like to start off with things that are going on at the moment. I know there's an awful lot of QAnon out there, information that's been happening, a lot of information being released, and of course you have the Alex Jones debacle that's going on now. I think most of us might agree. Well, I don't know about yourselves, you can all comment on this, but I personally feel that Alex Jones is controlled opposition anyway. And we had the TV program on over here in I was on in the UK last night called The Last Leg, and basically they were actually having slagging off Alex Jones, the typical, he's a conspiracy theorist and the frogs are going to be turned gay with the water. And you know, they always, when they want to turn around and have fun at conspiracy theorists, the first person they'll pick on is Alex Jones, and they'll show him doing the rant and the rave and everything else, and to try and embarrass people, to say, oh, if you're a conspiracy theorist, this is what you like and all this kind of stuff. But apart from Alex Jones, because I do think he's controlled opposition, there's an awful lot going on. And one of the things I've seen was a speech that Donald Trump did with Hillary Clinton there. I don't know whether you guys have seen it, where he actually calls her out. He says, he talks about the I think it's the Watergate scandal that she was involved in. She was a lawyer on the Watergate scandal, and she got kicked off it because she was so corrupt. They ended up having to kick her off. She had no morals. Now, if you do a bit of investigation into who Hillary is, her father was apparently a mafia boss, and he took over from one of the main bosses when he died. I mean, I think it was Al Capone, but don't quote me on that. So you tend to have a look at who Hillary is and how corrupt she is. Now, there's a lot of this kind of, you know, exposure happening. CNN News are being, people are losing their jobs left, right, and center because Trump has exposed the CNN as fake news, and there's an awful lot of things like that going on, and there's an awful lot coming out and being exposed. So I'd just like to take, when we start getting into it, I just want to go around the table and get your take on what you're saying, what you're hearing, and then obviously we'll go over to Ollie, and then we'll get Ollie's take on it and what he's hearing as well. So Detlev, I'll just start off with you.
I'm sorry. Yes,
yeah.
I was behind the scenes. Yeah. Okay, thanks for giving me the opportunity to start. Thanks, Alan. Well, I think, we have it with criminals all over the world in top positions. We shouldn't wonder about, individual persons or humans. Are they humans? We don't know. And we should really look at the whole picture. You know, the whole world is being controlled by criminals, so it shouldn't be we shouldn't be wondered about individuals like Hillary Clinton or somebody else. Al Capone also came from the Ashkenazi, the Jewish part of the world. We all know that, or the mafia bosses and so forth. It's a bunch of people who are working together worldwide, and all most probably knows even further about the subject. They are in a conspiracy against the humans. And so, wherever you look, whether it's Angela Merkel or whether it's Donald Trump, I wouldn't trust anybody of those guys because they are all in power positions, and positions of power corrupt. We all know that. So, that's my opinion. So we shouldn't have such an elite class ruling over us. We, as humans, we should be the ones responsible for our own lives. What do you think?
Okay, well, pass that over to Michael. What do you think, Michael?
Well, when you look in history, the history is full of the cabal, whether you call them tenebristi, which comes from the Latin word of darkness, these traitors of humankind, or whether you call them Herodians. They all been doing their dirty jobs for centuries and maybe thousands of years, basically. So we shouldn't be surprised. A lot of people think evil's gone on vacation since the so-called democracy established itself 200 years after the French Revolution ago, more than 200 years ago. The real problem is that materialism has grabbed human minds. And I think of a particular person. He's called Julien Offray de la Métrie. And he was a French scholared person, which was then going to Potsdam to Frederick William I, and got rid of his theory where he said human beings are only but nothing but machines, basically. And that is the problem since the 14th century, basically, that we drifted towards materialism. And the reason why we did it is because certain kind of spirits in the background wanted us in the battle of consciousness to only concentrate on the material aspects and issues. And throughout all our development, the spiritual side has been a steady part of our consciousness, which has, and since the 14th century, it has been, put under the table. And slowly enough, we have to reconnect with that spiritual side of us, because that is part of our heritage. And we have to reconnect to that heritage. That is what's called really religion, that we have a conscious reestablished, that we consciously reestablish the spiritual connection, basically. People are deprived today of their own natural happiness, because everybody has a life quest. He comes down to this earth with a quest from the spiritual side when he comes down. Has to do with karma and all these things. And he has the right, every human being has the right to live happily. And it shouldn't be like a pursuit of happiness. Happiness should be there as a given constant situation here. And these other people, they create the antipode of this kind of situation what we have. And the only thing left to people is surrogate bliss through consumption, through lotteries, through drugs, through movies, and consummation of unnecessary items. And I think, again, we have to fight that battle of consciousness. It's a battle of consciousness, basically, what we're in today.
Okay, and I'd like to add gadget porn there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Steve, what's your take on how things are going?
Well, just kind of to echo exactly what Michael said there. Yeah, there is battles going on, and I think every one of us here and everyone who's listening to the show this evening will agree that there are so many distractions. And I mean, there's so many TV channels. There are. When I was growing up here in Ireland, we only had a handful. I think we had one. Then it expanded to 2 TV channels that were available. And now on any given day, you can surf a satellite TV box pointed at one satellite, and you can pull in over a couple of thousand TV channels. So there's always something on somewhere to keep you distracted. And then if that doesn't work, if you don't want to watch the TV, then you have all the stuff on the internet, all the kind of social media stuff. You have the Facebook, you have Snapchat, Instagram. There's so many of them. And a lot of the young people today, and I know this to be true because I have one of them here, and she's kind of semi-addicted to a lot of this stuff. And the children today, I mean, we were talking before about, Big Brother watching you. Well, I mean, Big Brother is definitely watching all the kids today because Big Brother knows where your child is, where my child is at every given moment, who they're with, what they're talking about, etc. And then you have all this stuff where your microphone is being monitored on your device to target you with ads and all this sort of carry on. So I mean, there is no privacy today. There is no getting away from the technology. I mean, even if you go out into the countryside, just to kind of to relax and just kind of chill out, you're still getting bombarded with 4G, soon to be 5G, and cell phone towers and all this sort of stuff. And I think it all serves as a haze. It's like as if there's a big haze around the whole planet. And I mean, a lot of it is man-made. Okay, some of it is probably natural. But 90% of it, I would say, is man-made. And all the distractions that are there, I often wonder, like I kind of look outside the world and wonder, is what's happening here on Earth, is it like a video game, like the Lemmings? I think that was a very popular game back in the a long time ago, where there's an outside force controlling us, and they're putting all these obstacles, like they're hitting us with 5G and all these waves and all this sort of stuff, and then just watching how we actually react to it all. And are they just sitting back and watching it with a cup of tea, having a good laugh at how the human race is either progressing, expanding, or killing itself?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's all happening, all right. There's a lot going on. Matt, what's your take on things?
Well, okay, I want to go back to what you were saying about Alex Jones and all that stuff, right? Interesting that you brought all that up about him being banned from Facebook, Twitter, all at once. And it's a coordinated effort to block Alex Jones, and not only him though, even conservative-minded people or independently-minded people who are out there trying to tell the truth, and they're even banning on Facebook Republican candidates for these congressional races, and it's a coordinated effort to silence the opposition because they don't want people having access to the truth. Now, as far as Alex Jones being controlled opposition, I think you're right. I believe there was a time when he really was an independent person trying to bring information to the world. But about the time of the Burbank false flag and his divorce, I saw a switch in how he covered things. He didn't go after Burbank like he would as a false flag. He just kind of, and he didn't even question the real oddities in that story. So I saw a shift then, and his staff kind of changed, and he went on this beg for a money bomb for like, I think it was like $2 million he wanted, because his divorce settlement was like 1.4 million or something like that, right? So at that time, I saw him shift. So either they got him on something, or his divorce was caused by his infidelity, and it was a CIA plant. I don't know. I can only speculate. But at that time, he became controlled, and his website and his information has all been more mainstream Fox News-like versus what it was like before. It's a whole different InfoWars now. But that they're banning him is a signal that they're afraid of people having access to independent information outside of the fake news CNN. So you brought this up, that they're banning him. Well, I just watched this morning, and I posted it in our chat room, and I'm going to post it here in the Skype chat room. I posted it on the UnitedWeStart chat room, a link to Mike Adams' website, Counterthink, and he's suggesting this purge of independent media types, independent voices, bringing out the truth like we do and only does, is the pretext to a false flag. And this is the scenario he's painting, that they would have some ready-made patsies that were conservative, NRA members, Trump voters, Alex Jones listeners, ready to put in jail for a mass shooting at CNN. He thinks that's the false flag coming. That's the false flag that's coming, or something to that effect. Maybe it's not CNN. Maybe it's Google or Facebook, somebody get a mass shooting there. Is he right? Well, there's a possibility. I give him that much, that his theory is sound enough. I think though it's more they just want to prevent folks from having independent information ahead of the midterm elections with this Robert Mueller probe and this whole false narrative of Russian collusion, which is not a crime, by the way, in our 2016 election, that is going to fall apart eventually. And they don't want people having access to information about how the deep state, as Hillary Clinton, Jeff Sessions, Robert Mueller, and the FBI and the Department of Justice and all those bad actors conspired to prevent Trump from, one, being elected, and then trying to remove him from office. So they don't want people seeing that ahead of the November election, so that they can get their Democrat control of Congress that they're wanting. I think that's more the reason that they're censoring Alex Jones. But yeah, you're right, Alex. He's controlled opposition. I really want to hear from Ole about what he's thinking about all this.
Yeah, well, that's it. Ole, please jump in and tell us what your thoughts are and what's happening regarding Trump, Q, Alex Jones, and everything else.
I normally try to avoid bad-mouthing people. When it comes to certain individuals, though, I think it's important to do what we can to see what's going on. Alex Jones is one of these individuals. I was in contact with him. I had him on as a guest in a show that I was part of in 2009, where I really, really thanked him for everything he had been doing and so on. But over the years, I also met InfoWars, several of them outside the Bilderberg meeting in 2014 in Copenhagen, where I was one of the speakers. But the way you create controlled opposition is that you start out with somebody very, very brave, very, very intense, very, very strong in their intention of revealing the real truth. And they go full speed ahead to gather us around them because they're so good, they're so honest, they're so all of these things that just attracts us. Then once they got like thousands and thousands and thousands of the rest of us following them, that's when the real agenda starts, when they start diverting away slowly, but so that to still keep the followers. And then it will be like, instead of to start with, it was 100% truth, then it's 95% truth and 5% propaganda. Then that will shift even more. The longer the time goes, it starts bending away. And then now, just like Matt was saying, like InfoWars now has nothing to do with what InfoWars was to start with. And I don't think this is just because something happened in Alex's private life. Absolutely not. This is part of the agenda. That is how they do it. It's also how you infiltrate organizations. There's a very specific template for that. Normally what they do is they send in two infiltrators, then they get both of them in trusted positions. Then one of them suddenly exposes the other one as an infiltrator. And everybody goes, oh my God, it's a scandal. They get rid of the number two guy out there, and then they worship number one as the hero. And he will then rise up because he was the one that stood up. He was the one that saw that we were being infiltrated. But it's all done by design. Same with Alex. So I don't trust him at all. I used to thank him. I 0, 0, 0. I trust him. So when it comes to, you can also see that in the way they report about the false flag operations, keep blaming the patsies as that's the real thing. So it's a dangerous situation right now because many people that are very aware, suddenly around Alex Jones, they're sort of like standing up behind him, because I think this is an absolute ambush here for the rest of us, and also a intimidation tactics. Well, if they can get Alex, they can get anyone, so I better back down because I'm Mr. Nobody. That type of intimidation. But I'm not sure I understand really what is going on, so I will leave it there. When it comes to Hillary, we are talking about a super criminal individual. who comes from a background of crime. She was a lawyer back in Arkansas. Her husband was a very young William Clinton, who was the governor of Arkansas. And they were handpicked because they were already very much into criminal activities with whitewater scandals, real estate, all types of criminality. And then they were handpicked where Bill Clinton was, through the Bilderberg Group, elected as or chosen as the next president. He was invited there in the early 90s, I think, and that was where he was prepared, he was approved of, and boom, he came up as the next president. Because before that, also what he was involved in was the whole Iran-Contra scandal, where people like my friend, CIA whistleblower Chip Tatum, who was one of the pilots in Iran's Contra scandal, where weapons were stolen at the National Guard. The serial numbers, the parts with the serial numbers was exchanged at a little factory in Mexico that normally made parking meters, but they made these special parts that could then make these weapons being untraceable. They were then flown down in medevac planes or big C-130s down to countries like Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, where they were arming the Contras to do absolute slaughter of the people down there, and also to get rid of the governments and so on. And instead, when the planes returned back home, they were packed with cocaine in big cases, normally used for medical supplies or for blood plasma and so on. And even Chip, who was one of the pilots, was not aware of what he was transporting. He thought it was medical equipment, and then there was one bad landing where one of these cases fell over, and it turned out it was raw cocaine. And when he discovered that, he reported to his boss, who was Oliver North, a super criminal individual as well, working directly under George Bush Sr., who was building up at that time what was called the Enterprise, which was a massive, massive, big cocaine industry down there, where they joined the different cartels so that they could do it like in a much, much bigger scale. And all designed by Barry Seal, one of the other pilots that was an absolute genius when it came to these things. But when Chip discovered that he was actually part of this whole drug running thing, William Colby, the CIA director, former CIA director, who was also the guy that recruited Chip when he was young, he said, you need to get what he called insurance. You need to get yourself protection by gathering a lot of very, very serious evidence against these people. So Chip installed different cameras in the planes, and he was doing lots of things where to have some kind of security. And what he did with this filmed material and photos and so on was that he placed it in multiple cities around the world with what is called a dead man script, meaning that at specific dates, if he did not contact these different individuals every single year, had he been assassinated or whatever, that this information would then be released. Dead man script. So dead, and the info would be released. And some of the people he was filming personally there receiving the drugs were Bill Clinton, personally, together with his partner in crime, Dan Lasseter, and also Hillary in the background. And George Bush Sr. from time to time was also there, personally receiving the drugs when it came to Arkansas, Mena, Arkansas. That was the airstrip they used. And the drugs that was flown to Miami was many times hand-picked personally by Boy George, that's George Bush Jr., and his brother Jeb Bush. So, and then I just want to inflict also that when the Oklahoma City bomb went off, a job that was offered to, I'm not name dropping here, but I know these people personally. It was a job that was offered to a CIA whistleblower, Cody Snodgrass, who's now, we're doing many shows together now. He turned it down, but the job still went down, and the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City was blown up in 1995. The reason for that, there was multiple different reasons. They were trying to blame it on Timothy McVeigh and so on, who was also executed for it, but that was absolutely not the whole thing. There was a multi-layered reason for this being blown up. And one of the reasons were the Clintons, because When the first explosion had gone off, the whole Alfred P. Murray building, it was meant to be leveled with the ground, but it didn't. There were some explosives on the back of the building that didn't go off due to that the explosion just knocked out some of the igniters. But so when people were coming running from everywhere trying to help these poor victims that were lying there dying in the rubble, suddenly somebody started shouting out, secondary explosives, everybody evacuate the area, secondary explosives. So everybody had to leave, leaving their loved ones dying there. And while doing that, there were two vans coming in with people in blue overalls that went straight into the rubble. They knew exactly what they were looking for and got hold of different, these document file cabinets from the rubble, got hold of them into the vans and then took off. Once that was done, then everybody was allowed back on the crime scene and trying to help whoever was still alive. But the file cabinets that they picked up were the documents that had just been transported in the cases against Hillary and Bill Clinton in the Whitewater scandal and other of these things. So that was why they came in. They came there to destroy the evidence from this case, and also on a whole another level, there was a other major reason, but it's going to take too long to get into it. But also the body count, when you look at the Bill and Hillary Clinton, the number of suicides when it comes to people who have been in business with them, bodyguards, associates, people who knew too much, people who by accident discovered things about the Mena, Arkansas activity with the whole drug trading and so on. The body count is there. Their footsteps are printed in blood, and it's just gone worse and worse the higher up they come in the hierarchy. So when you look at dear Hillary, or Bill Clinton, or George Bush Sr., they are, if you've never seen monsters before, that's what they look like. They don't look like horrible serial killers and so on. That's what they look like. These are the ones in a lower level that are doing.
I think Hillary's kind of looks horrible.
Well, I agree with you, but.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll put it out there. Does anybody want to comment on that before we go on to Trump and Q? Does anybody want to comment on what Ollie just said there?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Ole. We, in our own independent research, all of us have done, we have seen that the Clintons are a big criminal cabal, and their criminal activities touch a lot of people in high places that I don't think we'll ever see her go to jail. Like people shout at the Trump rallies, lock her up. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see her in bright orange. Might make her look better, in fact. But they're criminals, and I think part of the reason of this purge of conservative-minded people or independent-minded people on the internet, from YouTube and all, is so that when this whole Russia narrative, Russia involvement in the 2016 election narrative just completely falls apart because these documents are being exposed by Congress, then they don't want people looking back at the Clintons to see all that criminality, because it does touch Bush as well. Because remember, he was the one who sent in the army to Panama to basically arrest an independent country's leader and put him in jail on false drug charges, so that because Manuel Noriega was threatening to expose George Bush's involvement in money laundering through his country of cocaine money. So I think Ole's right there. And I just wanted to add, Ole, you recommended Cody Snodgrass to us as a guest, right? And we had him on, and I found him very credible. And I was listening to the Michael Rivero show, What Really Happened, and he had a caller kind of dismissing Cody as a phony because he's not dead yet, because he knew he was given the job to blow up Alpha P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma and turned it down. So therefore, he should be dead, and that's why he doesn't believe him. And another guy from Republic Broadcasting, Steve something, called in to say, yeah, he thought Cody was phony as well. Okay. But I found it credible.
Can I comment on that?
Sure, I wanted you to.
Okay, Cody contacted me about a year ago. It was at a time nobody had heard of him. I hadn't heard of him either. And he said that he explained exactly his background with Black Ops as a private contractor for more than 20 years. And then when he was offered this job and so on, he turned it down because he was at the end of his career. Also, to do it on American soil, him as a patriot, it was just absolutely against all of his beliefs. At the same time, also, he knew that it was a patsy job, a setup, because he was offered $1 million, and for a job like that, that is peanuts. So he knew that he was being set up and took a step back. When he did that, he came from having been an asset under the CIA, and so he became a liability, and they tried to destroy him. They tried to destroy him in court. It ended up with him he was in the same top security prison as Timothy McVeigh that was executed. He was three cells down from where Timothy was when he was executed, or at least what seems to be an execution. Right. And after that, he managed to get out, and then he kept silent for 22 years, waiting for the Clintons to get out of the White House, because that was the only chance, because he had two near-death experiences where they tried to kill him in Project Slammer. And when he had this near-death experience, he had really a revelation, this classical thing with the tunnel. And also he met his angel, which it's very strange to speak to a former assassin, a very, very brutal individual, who are now talking about angels and who's on a spiritual path doing everything he can to redeem himself and so on. So when we prepared for about 6 months for him to step forward, because the only way you can do this without getting killed when you have explosive information is to wait for the right time and then pump the information out there as much as possible to as many as possible, so that it gets off his shoulders and out there in the public domain. So what we did was we waited, and we planned. I set up from 3 to 5 interviews per day, and then just before we were going to do the first one, I mean, he was shaking, he was sweating, he was so afraid. I totally understand. He had bodyguards. He lives up in the mountains outside Colorado Springs. He had a healing center there. He had friends there that were armed. He was sitting there. He was just waiting to be taken out as soon as we started. And the first interview we were going to do, his computer got totally fried. Boom. It was almost like smoke were coming out of it. It was a virus that people in the computer stores, they didn't even know what had hit it. It was just totally burned out. But after that, we did 3 to 5 interviews per day for several weeks, because that was the only way we could keep him alive. And I was in contact with him on an hourly basis from 5 o'clock in the morning his time, the whole day through, and so on. Because also I have a family. When you go out with information like that, it is a risky, scary situation. And then everything went well. There was a lot of threats and stuff like that, but nothing real. Then the end of September, he was when we were starting to relax a little bit, and we thought that every time he started his car, he thought it was going to blow up, because he knows how they work. He used to be one of them. But then one day there were some people from Ohio that came over for a healing session, and they just wanted to take a drive downtown where he lives. So he was in this car, and when they drove down there, this was late December, lots of snow and so on, and suddenly one car just totally rammed them and almost killed them. Both vehicles totally wrecked. Nobody died, but this is the third time where there's been car attacks against him. He's been in hospitals, he's been smashed up, he's been, you name it. And this last hit in December here, he got very serious nerve damages to his neck and to his face, and with whiplash things and so on. So for about a week or so after that, he couldn't. His memory was messed up, and he couldn't stand up, and he was falling over, puking, and so on. But now he's back in the saddle, and as soon as he was back in, we're sort of like, okay, let's go. We started doing it again, and I don't know how many shows I've been with him now. I've never found one time where he lied. I've never found one detail that wasn't correct. Of course, in certain areas he doesn't know, because he was under the cover, sort of. He was black ops. He didn't know the big picture. He didn't care. He was part of doing his stuff. I was part of doing my stuff. So for me, he's like a gold treasure. That's why I try to get him on as many shows as possible, because it is incredibly valuable information that he has from the inside, in the belly of the beast, where we need to understand what's going on. Otherwise, we can't do anything about it. So to say, yes, of course, why is he still alive? I get that question too. How come you're still alive if you tell the truth? I don't know. It's shit scary. I've been threatened. I had 2 friends that was murdered. I had to leave my country. I live in Spain since many years because of this. And so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's a very dangerous game you get yourself into on that level. So every time I call him now, we were going to do a show yesterday. He didn't answer. So now I don't know what's going on. Has anything happened? Is he in the hospital? Is he taken out? I don't know. So, but it's on a daily basis. So as soon as I finish this call, I'm going to call and see how he's doing. And hopefully he will answer, or maybe not. So it's like to question him is good. Question everything. That's what I say. The only one that I really trust, I only trust one person, really, myself. I've been taken for a ride more than once, and I'm gullible at times and naive, and it's been very painful to discover that some of these people around me have been fake. But I have no idea. But I stand by him as my brother in whatever so far.
Okay. I thought like you. I think like you. Always verify. But I did find Cody credible, and I think there's people who are working for the opposition who call into these radio shows, planting seeds of doubt in people's minds so that they don't know what the truth is. Always, I recommend people do their own research and make their own decision based on the research they can do.
It's standard procedure. As soon as you start speaking the truth on a high level, they will try to destroy you. They will try to destroy your reputation. They will try to destroy your finances. They will try to destroy everything around you. But it's messy to kill someone. They try to avoid that if it's not really necessary. So if they go for you physically, it would be through, they will hire gang members, or it would be with mind control drivers that are not aware of really what's going on, through accidents. And then they will go into suicides. But if that's too obvious, then it's real time hits. But they will try to get it diffused so that it doesn't point towards them. That's the whole idea.
Okay, let's just pass it around the table there. Steve, what's your comment on that?
Well, my comment on Cody, is it?
Well, just in general.
I don't really know Cody. I haven't really heard of Cody, but it all sounds very. I was just kind of thinking there when Ole was talking that. When you think about it, if somebody knows you, like they've been, I don't know, let's say they've been a whistleblower or something like that, and they know that you have the capability to take them out at any moment in time, then they're going to be waiting for that, I suppose. And, if someone is afraid to leave their home or afraid to start their car, eventually, and I think we've seen this in movies as well, eventually, you would wish that they would just do something, because at least then it will be over. But you could spend a lifetime waiting and just driving yourself mad and delusional until at some point in time, if they don't want to kill you, then at some point, knowing that they could do it at any moment would probably drive you to commit suicide. So therefore, obviously, they're playing mind games, and I'm sure a lot of that goes on. And just briefly in relation to the likes of Alex Jones, I actually agree with what Matt said as well. I think a lot of these people who are high profile, and we're probably going to find more of them as time goes by. I think it's inevitable that people will start off with the right intentions. They'll kind of get a following, or a mass following, and eventually they will be controlled. And as Matt said, and I agree, they'll probably be exposing 100% truths, and then it'll go to 95, and then it'll dwindle down until they are totally controlled, and they will have the following as well. But I mean, look, I think knowing the problem as we do is a step in the right direction. I think the fact that we can, there are a lot of people actually across this world who don't know what the problem is, and it's only when we can identify the problem is then when we can start working towards solutions and solving these problems. And I think shows like the Roundtable, and everyone else's respective other projects that they do individually, I think it is a step in the right direction in waking people up. And although I use the terminology as that we're planting seeds, I think we need to just continue, because we were obviously having an effect. Now we're not going to all just pat ourselves on the back, and say, well, this is us. But, I think collectively and individually, everyone is playing a part and exposing various things that are going on. And I think, well, maybe we should give ourselves a little pat on the back, because, we are making a difference where mainstream media is not really well, obviously mainstream is controlled as well, and it does take the likes of individuals and small groups like what we have here to really expose what's going on, educate the people, and as I say, find solutions. That's my tuppence worth.
Okay, Michael.
Well, just been reflecting. I have a specific question about. I've heard theories that Steve Vagenic is supposed to be Q, and I have no clue on it. Maybe somebody knows a bit more on that story. That's one thing. Another thing I've been thinking is that, as I mentioned before, everybody in this world has the right to live a happy life, and most people are being deprived of that kind of thing. So we take it for granted that people spend 8 to 10 hours in an office or work for a company and to get a defined salary, which they they cannot determine, and it is a fixed salary determined by them. And I don't know why we accepted this kind of slavery, because we came in this world with our own life quest. We have to have 100% of authority, what we do with our life. It can be creative, it can be effective, but it has to be chosen out of our own free will, what we do. And everybody has been bestowed with certain gifts, which he brings, or talents. And that can be organized in a different manner. And these evil people, you call them the cabal, the Tenedrisvi, the traitors, basically the traitors of human destiny. And they have created an infrastructure of evil, and we are all being forced into that kind of infrastructure of evil. And they're like ants living and lurching out of our energies. And I think we have to generally question the whole validity of that so-called system that we live in today, because that doesn't lead into a kind of fruitful human destiny. As I said, it's a machination. It's an Ahrimanic idea that it's a spirit that denies his own nature as a spirit and drives us into materialism. With that pretext, he gets his agenda through. And we have to question not only the symptoms, but the whole machinery. And when we look in the history, we see, we have to study Machiavelli. And when we read the book of Il Principe, that means the prince, I think, in English, when we read that book, we realize what the whole thing is all about. It's that whole machine, that evil machine, that took every aspect of human life away from its origin, from its pure origin. And we have to, again, make that connection again to that purity of human life. And when we don't do it, then we end in a disaster. That's that's my opinion, and they got every aspect of it, whether it is the Gorgias with his school of the sophistic school, which later is it's the precursor of the news agency. So you have to look the school of Gorgias in Sicily, and you look, that is the precursor of politicians and news agencies, basically. And it's all, the whole thing is about, they're all basically based upon is deception and usurpation. That is really what they're doing, and they lurch of our energies. So whether you call them the neocons, the Mont Pelerin Society with Hayek, the so-called money systems, the banks and everything, we have to question. We have to do away with it. We have to start over again. That's my opinion.
The change has to take place. Detlev, your take.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Well, I would agree. I mean, they cannot kill everybody who's speaking up, and censorship is taking place in an incredible way, which we were not used in the last 20 years. It is now happening like InfoWars. I think InfoWars, just to give a word to that, to Alex Jones, he has woken me up. So I give him credit for that, even if he doesn't do that now anymore. But he's an important figure, and he's also showing what is happening in terms of censorship. So I think that is a very important thing to keep up and support someone like Alex Jones, even if he's controlled opposition. The other thing is with insiders speaking up, it is also basically the basic human wish to discover the truth and to speak the truth. And you cannot just live lies. I mean, if you live lies, you are lost. I mean, you are a lost soul. And I think if there are people in the system, and there still are a lot who have a soul, or who have part soul, whatever you think, it is important for them to know that with examples like we were talking about, speak up and you will get free. The more people who are waking up, the more people who are exposing the system, it makes the system weak, and we can take over by abolishing the system, by just doing our own thing. As Michael said, we have to look forward and do things in a positive way as an example, because that's now our next task, to show how we should live. So give examples. So I think in overall, I think it's in a very important time now, and we shouldn't be afraid of death, even if they are threatening to kill you or me or whoever, all of us. They cannot kill us all. So look forward to exposing them, and that's what we're doing every day.
Exactly.
I agree with you, Detlev. We should not be afraid. We should not be afraid of death, because if you are, then that'll put you in a very weaker state. Then you cannot resist the forces of evil aligned against us. Before we get to the top of the hour, Ole, were you going to be able to stay for another hour with us, or do you have to leave?
I'm very sorry, I have to leave.
Okay, so before you go, one thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Craig was a CIA whistleblower who had stashed information around the world. Do you remember saying that, telling us about that?
No, that's Chip Tatum.
Oh, Chip. Okay. Would you mind putting us in touch with him? I'm sure he'd be a great guest for us to have on.
But he's no longer doing interviews. He's down in Colombia, and he's pulled back. I've tried to do interviews with him the last 6-8 months as well, but he's turned me down.
Okay.
No, he's still in the game, but he's very much focused on, he's starting up a cannabis business down there, and trying to get into medical cannabis and these areas. So he's very focused there, and I think he feels that he's done everything he can. He's done so many interviews. He had his own radio channel and so on. So now he's just pulled back.
Okay, well, so much for that. Do you have anything you wanted to share with us that's newsworthy that you want to get off your chest, or just promote your websites?
Any positive stuff? Let's look at the positive before Ole goes. Is there any positive stuff you want to put on? You want to mention, Ole?
The way I think is that this is on a spiritual level as well. It's so easy to lose yourself down on a street level in all this mud and toxic information and so on. And whatever happens, this is also a chance for us to evolve spiritually, to build our spiritual muscles and so on, to learn how to free ourselves from fear, which is also very beneficial in your daily life. So I would very much suggest focus on meditation, how to think about the rest of the world with compassion, not these dark forces. I mean, it's the same like if you have a body with a cancer, you need to find the cancer growth, you need to find if there are metastases and go to the root of it, but do it without too much anger, too much need for revenge and so on, because it will weaken you. At least that is what I feel when I get angry, when I get if I fill my heart with hatred and so on. It weakens me. I lose perspective, and it also destroys relationships around me. I want to be as efficient I can, so I try to come from love, but the absolute fearless exposure of these dark ones, because it needs to stop. It really needs to stop. So would it be okay if I finish with a prayer? I'm not a religious person, but I have this prayer that I really think is beautiful, and this is what I stand for.
Yeah, shoot away. Go ahead.
Great.
It goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth overcome all darkness, so victory to that light.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Ole. Thanks, Ole.
Really,
Hey, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Hopefully you can join us again sometime when you can hang out for a little while.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to.
Okay, we'll pass that over to Detlev. Detlev, it's the top of the hour, so we'll leave it with you.
Yeah, we'll listen to some music and then we'll meet after that right for the next hour. Stay tuned.
United We
Thank
Start,
you so much for
fighting
inviting
for
me.
freedom. A group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of a month, 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT.
City map. A very good friend from Nashville, Tennessee. The downtown Gibson Guitar Factory Tours is where it's at. live till you had southern cooking and some barbecue. B.B. King is a national treasure. Before I leave, I want to pay my respects to the king of rock and roll. Lost in Memphis, ground zero for rock and roll and the blues. Heaven help me, maybe I'm crazy, don't know where to go. Lost in Memphis, ground zero for rock and roll and the blues. Ground zero, rock and roll and the blues. Ground zero, rock and roll and the blues. Yeah, yeah, come on, yeah.
Join United We Start, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Hi, this is Detlev here, Awakeness Radio, Awakeness TV. Second hour of our United We Start roundtable discussion. First hour we had Ole Dammegard from Spain, actually. He lives in Spain. He's a Danish citizen. Okay, we do have a terrific subject here for the second half of the hour. I think Alan wanted to propose it. Alan, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, basically, I think there's an awful lot going on. There are a lot of positives going on. If you look at what's happening, especially with Trump and this so-called QAnon, whoever he is, I don't know who he is, but I'm kind of looking at the information of interest. And one of the videos I seen today, somebody was talking about the information about QAnon, and they referred back to the speech that Trump did before he was a president. And he was basically calling Hillary out and saying how corrupt she was. About the Whitegate, was it Whitegate? No, I always say Whitegate.
Watergate.
The Watergate scenario where Hillary was actually kicked off because she was so corrupt. She did something that went against the House rules, and Trump called her out on that. He said, "How corrupt do you have to be kicked off? The inquiry." So that was interesting, seeing Trump verbally say that to Hillary, and she was just, she didn't know where to put her face, and Trump was calling her out. So whoever QAnon is. And where he's getting the information from. It's interesting. Now, I know there's speculation out there as to who Q might be, but regardless of whether Q is part of the system or he is doing, putting out information out there, it's waking more and more people up. And there's a lot of stuff. Now, we were told 2 years ago that we're going to see an awful lot of stuff coming out in the media and people being exposed, and we are seeing that. And today, I don't know whether you guys seen it, but a groundsman in a sports ground over in America who used to spray Roundup has won something like 289 million from Monsanto because it's now proven that Roundup is cancerous. You know,
did he win
it's
that case?
carcinogenic.
I didn't hear that he won. That's good news.
Yeah, that's brilliant news. So that means that Monsanto now has to pay this chap. Now, there was a photograph of his back and how badly, I mean, this guy probably has cancer. He's probably going to die soon anyway with all the Roundup. But we've said this a long time. A long time ago, we were saying about the dangers of Roundup and it being carcinogenic. And now now it's in the mainstream media. It's been proven that it is. So, and they're still selling the product, even though this now case has been, and it's in the mainstream media. So this case has now been closed out. Well, it's finished now. It's over. He won. But so all this information is coming out. There's a lot of things going on about Trump. People didn't realize that Trump's Aircraft One was fired on, and the missiles were kind of taken out by advanced technology by the fighter planes. This is what's being said. And there's actually 2 aircraft ones. There's not one. There's the decoy as well. So there's an awful lot going on. And, you know, we're not privy to that inside information. So we can only speculate based on the information that we see and what other people are saying. So obviously we're going to have to be careful. But I'll pass it over to Steve first. Steve, I don't know whether you've been looking at the Trump QAnon and what's been going on there. But, you know...
Oh, sorry.
What's your take on it?
It's like everything else, Alan. I don't know if it's true. There may be some credence to it. There may be not. Again, as we mentioned earlier on in relation to the likes of Alex Jones, QAnon could be a person, it could be a group, it could be an idea, it could be started by, I don't know, some government department in order to, when people are starting to cotton on to what's going on. They don't want the people turning away from mainstream, turning off the TV, turning away from the newspapers and getting their news and information from the likes of alternative media. So I mean, if people are kind of heading in that direction, then what are you going to do? Are you going to just watch it happening, watch the collapse, or are you going to set up your own thing to kind of circumvent that? So you could set up, let's say, QAnon. You could set up this idea whereby you can see where people are going, so you set up your own alternative. You start kind of putting out the real news as it is, and then when people start kind of turning away from the likes of Alex Jones, away from other alt media, and they're kind of watching your every move and listen to your every word. Then you kind of, as was mentioned earlier, you start kind of, maybe not putting out so much of the real news, and you start kind of getting people back to the mainstream way of thinking, but without them actually knowing it. QAnon could be something like that. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, we always kind of say, use your own discernment, and I think that's what people will have to do. Okay, maybe Trump said some things, or years ago, and maybe Hillary was fired from some committee. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. But again, it's all about information, and when you hear some information, you have to always say, well, where's the information coming from, and who is going to benefit from that information being released? And is QAnon kind of part of this? I actually don't know. In all fairness, I haven't heard that much about it, but I'm not gonna kind of have all my eggs in one basket, as they say, because there's too much of that going around the internet. We found out very recently in a recent show we did, where there's a lot of alternative cures and remedies for various different ailments, but there are also people out there who want you using theirs, and you have to forsake all others and use just theirs. So I think the internet is rife with people like that and groups, and I think, as I said, we just need to use our own discernment.
Definitely. Okay, Michael.
Well, as I mentioned before, I had an intuition that this Q Anon could be connected with Steve Bajanic. Of course, it's an artificial, fictive kind of a structure behind it, but I thought it has some specific personal handwritings that goes in that direction. But I think overall, what Q says, sometimes it appears to me to be distractive of looking to the essentials, and that whole situation seems to be like an operation of the secret services to distract people from, searching the real grounds, what is manipulating today's world. So I have no clue whether that my suspicion is based on any reality. But as I said, I have a little bit of an inclination that it could be connected to Steve Bajanic. And I would pass on that question whether anybody has heard or these that can verify these rumors.
Okay, Detlev, what's your take on it?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think QAnon is just what Michael suggested, a secret operation of the cabal, of parts of the cabal. I mean, the cabal is not always on one side. It's not a united cabal. So they have different interests. And there will be parts of the cabal who are fearing exactly what was discussed, that too many people are waking up and they're turning away. You can actually, if you look at the news agencies here, or the newspapers here in Europe at least, they are revealing information which they hadn't done years ago. So suddenly, they are in the focus again. We are also linking articles from this press in our news overview, because it's true information. So I guess they are afraid of losing the people, the majority, and QAnon could be part of it. We also have been discussing in an earlier show, I don't know if you remember, that there may be an AI idea, or that the world basically is a game. So this could be a game to accelerate the awakening. And I don't know. It's very hard to say. I'm not really referencing a lot to QAnon anymore because as Michael said, the spiritual thing is not really coming off, and also Rothschild and Vatican is not really being pushed on the information. So there's information lacking through QAnon, I would say. I don't know.
Well, it's just a case of looking at it with, with an open mind, really. We will get to talking about the energies and the AI thing. We'll talk about that next. But just, Matt, over to you regarding Trump and Anon, and what's your feelings on that?
Well, I'm not real familiar with the topic, though. I've looked since we've been chatting online and found a quote from accredited to QAnon, and basically saying that Robert Mueller's investigation is not really about Trump. It's about looking at Hillary Clinton. I find that ludicrous because what Robert Mueller is doing is trying to find anything that he can, and contrive nonsense like Russians interfering with our elections out of nowhere so that he can protect Hillary. And that's really what's going on. So it's nonsense that if that is true, that's what Q is saying, then one has to be a fool to follow that. But I think everyone here has that same mindset, is that this QAnon needs to be looked at with scrutiny to ensure that this is not coming from an agent provocateur from the government. Like Michael was suggesting, they could set up this as controlled opposition, which is absolutely true. So if just that one quote is accurate of what QAnon is representing, then I don't see any credibility in this. Time to move on. Okay.
Well, as I say, it's all about keeping an open mind. It's just interesting what's being said about QAnon. It's very hard for any of us to to know what's going on because we're not in the inner circle of what's going on. So it's just all speculation. But that's the whole thing of the round table, is just to put the information out there and have a talk about it.
I wanted to make one comment because of what Michael was saying, that Steve Pieczenik might be this QAnon. I've had suspicions. I can't recall specifics, but my own impression of Steve Pieczenik is that he was a disinformation agent, giving disinformation out through sources like Alex Jones to have some kind of credibility. He's interspersed some truth, but some really oddball stuff that is just nonsense. And if that's who it is, then I wouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm. Well, when they mix the truth in a barrel full of lies, it's very hard to get the truth. And that's just a statement that we were told by John Irwin. I do want to touch base on the whole idea that there's an awful lot of talk regarding the Lionsgate, regarding the energies hitting the planet and people feeling all different kinds of symptoms. There's people not feeling well, or aches and pains. We have people not sleeping. They're waking up, they're seeing this, 3333, 1111, and all these times and all these synchronicities are happening. They're talking about people being able to speed up the manifestation. Certain abilities are increased regarding telepathy and clairvoyance, and just everybody feeling a little bit different. And again, this talk about the energies and what's happening. I know we talked about this before. The AI that we said, Detlev, on the last show, there's this belief also out there that we are in a game, in this kind of Sim City, and we've been affected by this virus. And what's happening is the virus is now being cleaned up, and we're in this kind of dome, or some people call it dome, some people call it a veil. And this veil is going to be lifted shortly. Well, there's a lot of talk about it. It's always the word soon. I've been hearing soon for the last 5 bloody years, but it's always soon. So this veil or this dome's going to be lifted, and we're going to see reality. We're going to really see what's going on, and this because this virus is clearing. It's an interesting to talk about it. Again, entertain the thought without accepting it, as we always say at OIM, because then we can have a good open-minded discussion about it. So it's interesting that there's an awful lot of this, an awful lot of spiritual people talking about it, who are picking up the energies and feeling the energies, and a lot of empaths picking up stuff as well. So I'd just like to pass that out to see on your side of the fence what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're researching. I'll pass that off to Steve. Start off. Steve?
Sorry, Alan. I actually had the mute button on there because the dog was out the back barking. Sorry. Can you just what was the question again?
Do you want me to come back to you and you'll probably pick up what's being talked about?
Yeah, do. Sorry, because as I say, the dog was barking there, so I was just away from the mic.
Yeah. Okay, Michael, we'll go off to you.
Well, I think you talked about clairvoyance. I think clairvoyance is an individual thing which you have to work for and to do the meditations to gain access to that kind of higher vibrations. But where I think you're correct is that the overall energies make these things more sympathetic and they're easier to achieve. That I agree. That we are drifting towards a more light, saturated kind of overall universal situation. That is correct. I agree with you there. But I don't think there is anything like a collective passing out of clairvoyant faculties, because you have to do that. It's a striving process of the growth of individuality, and only through individuality you can have access to those realms, basically speaking.
Okay, Detlev, and obviously we're going to throw in the whole ascension process and New Earth and 5D, loads to talk about that as well. So Detlev.
Yeah, thanks. Well, there are things happening. That's no question. But I was very astounded that you could actually discover and look at it on weather radar that there are huge anomalies, high energy waves, thousands of kilometers or miles stretching across the Earth, emitting from Antarctica. I don't know whether you've followed this. Right before the fires, which were starting in Europe and in Greece, for instance, you could discover these energy waves. And if you are investigating this Antarctica issue, you will find on the opposite side of Chile, right across, if you want to, thousands of miles across, there's a small archipel, a small island called Rothschild. So if you investigate this, you will be amazed that it looks like, I don't have the 100% proof, but it looks like something is emitting from there all across the earth towards Japan, and you had these earthquakes going on towards the hurricanes in the Atlantic, the two recent ones. In the midst, there was this stream across Africa, directed to Greece, to Europe, what have you. So somebody's manipulating these energy waves, and this may also have some influence on all of us. So that's something I wanted to put in there.
Do you think it's sinister, or is it positive?
Well, I think it looks sinister. But
okay.
In the end, even sinister things help to wake people up, because then we can discover it. We can look it up even. It's online. Everybody can look it up.
Can you post that into the chat room, please, for our audience and myself, so I can take a look? It's very interesting. I've not heard of this. Well, I'd like to look into it.
I kind of seen something in passing, Detlev, but I haven't looked into it. I just came across something, one of the videos that I'd watch, like BP Earthwatch or something like that, where they were talking about some energy waves, but I wasn't paying too much attention. I got distracted.
You should, and I will paste some links in there.
Excellent.
The next speaker.
Yeah, okay, Matt, what's your take on this, everything that's going on with energies and New Earth and 5D and people experiencing different things?
I think if you're having trouble sleeping or exhibiting all kinds of ailments, to look at what you're ingesting first before blaming it on outside energies beyond your control. Maybe what you put into your body helps your body or hurts your body. If you're eating GMO foods with lots of chemicals, processed foods, fast foods, foods with all kinds of chemicals in it, might cause you to have ailments. I might look there first before blaming some kind of energy. But I liked Ole's prayer that he closed with, because he spoke about filling the world with love. And he's right. More of us that do what we do it out of the love of humanity and freedom, and we spread that. And then if we help spread that for the rest of the planet, which has been our goal with UnitedWeStrike and now with UnitedWeStart from the very beginning, that people around the world can unite in that cause of joining in as a human race to stop the oppression on a global scale, because we're not going to do it piecemeal, a country here, a country there. I think that's where our energies should be going and how we should focus our energies, and not waiting for some cosmic event to occur that I've been hearing about for dozens of years now, that will never occur, for just these hopeful fools that want to not take control of their own lives. July 31st was supposed to be this great big cosmic event. Well, I woke up on July 31st and the world was the same as it always was, and I had breakfast the same as I always have. I'm not living in some different kind of universe. Well, maybe we are, but that's a different subject. You
have a point about that, because loads of people, dates have come and gone. Me and Steve have been doing this 8 years, and we've had dates. So we put it out there for entertainment purposes only. And the 31st of July was one of these dates. Now, that was one of the people that talked about this was a lady called Lisa Harrison. And she said she speaks to some entity that comes through her computer system in energy, not a hacker, called Lilu, who mentioned this date. And she said from the 31st of July, 4 weeks on, that's when things between. So basically by the end of August, what's ever supposed to happen will happen. This is what's being said. So, yeah, I mean, like you, Matt, we're very skeptical because how many times have we heard these dates come and go and nothing has happened?
Indeed. And so I think the bottom line is that we all, like Oli's prayer suggests, spread love and think and hope and pray for even people like Hillary to have peace in her heart, which she does not have one. But the idea, I think, still is the objective. And we spread that kind of love throughout the planet. Hopefully, this evolution will be self-fulfilling because we've done it for loving the human race.
I just think we have to carry on doing what we're doing. I'm not having a go at Lisa because I think she's just a messenger. And I think she was kind of, I don't really want to put out a date. She was kind of, reluctant to do it. But this entity told her. Now, it could be that she's been set up by this entity, and it might be an entity, it might be just controlled opposition or some advanced tech that...
some hacker.
Or something like that. And
some high school kid having fun at her expense.
It could be, exactly, yeah. But it was more of an energy signature than a hacking signature on the computer. So I'm not having to go at Lisa because that's what she was told. But it'd be interesting. I mean, if we get to the end of August and September and people are talking about the Lionsgate and everything else, but the whole idea of the on a quantum level, or maybe on a quantum level, that we are in a simulated program like the Matrix. Now, that is of interest because even the likes of Elon Musk and people of that ilk have said the same thing, that we were in some simulated program, and there's only like a percentage of people on the planet who are organic and the rest are synthetic. It's like that red lady in the Matrix. She's just part of the program, and that's a kind of an interesting take on society and what's happening. Maybe it is. Maybe advanced ETs were in an advanced ET simulation. Who knows? And
the Mandela effect is cause to consider that a possibility, because recently I went to a Judas Priest concert, and now on the Judas Priest logo, there's this kind of a cactus-looking T at the end for the T for Judas Priest, and there was never there before. And what was odd was it appears to have been there all along, but I never remembered it that way. And I saw this guy with a tattoo of that, new emblem, and I thought, wow, that's got to be the Mandela effect. Now, what causes the Mandela effect? I don't know. Maybe a glitch in the Matrix. Yeah, and that's why folks like us remember something different, and that glitch just kind of changes things a little bit. There is a possibility, however far-fetched that sounds. You look at the episode on The Next Generation, the Star Trek Next Generation, where Professor Moriarty hijacked the Enterprise, and then to satisfy his desire to explore the universe outside of the holodeck, what they did was create a simulation of the universe with this device that they put him and his girlfriend in with a lot of RAM or memory, so that he could live out this whole existence in this vast universe, just based on this little box that was about the size of a big shoebox. So there is that possibility, and I don't have an answer for that other than to be able to consider it.
Well, that's exactly what I think we could be in. I mean, Steve, what do you think? Do you think we're in a holodeck of an advanced AI program, and it's all kind of controlled, or that everything's predetermined?
In a word, yes. I do believe. Whether things are predetermined, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of little algorithms running in the background. But I think if we kind of woke up and actually found that we were in a matrix, we wouldn't be too surprised. I really don't think so. But just backtracking ever so slightly, just to kind of catch up, in relation to Lisa Harrison, yes, there was a prediction for the end of July, and as you say, there was supposed to be something that was supposed to happen over a 4-week period. Now, we spoke recently in relation to Lisa, and you mentioned to me that she hadn't actually done a follow-up video. Now, did she not do a follow-up video because maybe she's gone to the 5D? Maybe she's gone to the New World? I don't know. Has she ascended? Has anything happened to her? But Lilu, just very quickly, Lilu is a Finnish word and it translates to toy, and it also translates in French, allegedly from what I found on the internet, to the chosen. So I don't know. Lilu means the chosen. So is it the chosen one? Who knows? Just very quickly, the fires and the earthquakes across the world. From what we're seeing on news broadcasts, it kind of looks like biblical prophecies coming through. Is the end nigh, as we've heard so many times? Is it new energy weapons being tested? Aches and pains. I wake up with aches and pains. I just put it down to old age. But is it energy waves? Perhaps it's 4G, 5G being tested, rolled out. I don't know. Wi-Fi, cell towers, are they ramping up powers? It really is hard to know. But do I believe that there could be, some artificial, possibly intelligence controlling the whole thing? Yes. Could we be smaller than we actually think? Could we be a science experiment in a little petri dish? Yes, we could be. Maybe we're not as big as we think we are. Maybe we are not the masters and the rulers of the universe. And in relation to Ole's prayer, I believe we should be making love, as not war, as John Lennon put it so many years ago.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Michael, what's your take on the AI and everything, the energies and stuff?
Well, I think that is too fatalistic of an idea. And it's a very dangerous idea, because that's what Ahriman would love, because it would cut away our free will. Because we create our own reality, our own universe, according to our own thoughts, to our own feelings, and to our own will forces. And we have, so to speak, well, that's the old discussion with old astrology, Is it predetermined? Even the old Indians were asking that question. Is things predetermined through the planets and through the course of the planets, etc., etc.? Which planets are actually nothing else but the physical manifestation of the gods. So I think it is very dangerous when we think everything is preset and we have no ability to control it. That is typically Ahrimanic, and Ahriman would wish that we think in that way, because through that we create that reality. So I think when we take care of our thoughts and we realize it to be in an affirmative mood, that is what basically what is counting. We have to be affirmative. We have to live in a world of brotherly and sisterly kind of, social kind of interactions, where we create this affirmative atmosphere of cooperation. And when we do that, we can change the future in no time, all towards the positive. So it's not like a machine that's running, that fatalistic kind of Ahrimanic kind of thought, which is basically, they call it in philosophy, they call it nihilism. It would be horrible if this nihilistic world would be reality. So I completely disagree with that theory.
Okay, well, the one thing that we might try and get to is the whole idea of free will, because I don't believe we have free will anymore. And why do I say that? Because if I drive down the road and I don't have a driving license in the car, then I will be pulled up and arrested by the police. And to me, that's not free will. Now, I know that's on a very low level, but it's still not free will, because if I choose to get in my car and drive the car, I shouldn't need to have a piece of paper to say I can drive the car. So free will has been taken away from us a long time ago, but we'll get to that. I'll just pass it over to Detlev regarding the AI program and whether you feel that we are in the matrix in the program, some advanced simulation.
Yeah, thanks, Alan, also for your thoughts of everybody. Well, I think Michael is right. The original life or the original thought for mankind and let's say nature and the creation which is there has never had to do with the Matrix. The Matrix was put on by evil forces afterwards. And this Matrix film, or the movie The Matrix Part 1, basically shows that this Matrix is vulnerable. So it is not perfect. So that's why it is not godly. So it is not the original idea for mankind. But the Matrix was put on in order to, to please evil. And I think this could be. We could be in this Matrix, and the ones who are waking up, like us or, many others, and incidents happening, glitches, as we discussed earlier on, show that there is a Matrix going on. So there could be a certain AI, active, but in a negative way, in an evil way. And our task basically is to discover this, to open it up, to repair, eventually with godly help. That's my thought on that.
That's probably what our job is going to be, and what our job is. Matt, I want to. We've 20 minutes left on the show, so let's get into the positive side. And I'll start off with you with this question: what event do you think we need on a global level to do a mass awakening of the people?
Well, it won't be a good event. I'll tell you that much. It'll be another 9/11 event or type event that would probably wake a lot more people up. And now that people know the term false flag, with the help of folks like Alex Jones, learning that people are watchful now, that an event like that can be lied about. That's why maybe they're taking down independent media from all these other platforms, so that you cannot get the information through them. People have to go through alternative resources like this program to find information, and it'll be some major event, maybe a war, maybe a nuke going off in Tel Aviv, and then they blame it on the Arabs, and boom, we've got a world war on our hands. Who knows? But it'd be something like that.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, it really is hard to know. I mean, this, as we said earlier, there's so much going on, and that you just don't know what the future is going to hold. I mean, yeah, could there be a potential for another big event like 9/11? Yeah, of course there could. Would it wake more people up? Probably. But I mean, I don't know. I think, as I said earlier, what we're doing is, I think we're kind of planting seeds, and where we are kind of waking people up to what's going on, but it is kind of a gently approach. I mean, I think 9/11 is kind of like somebody coming up beside you while you're asleep with a big bass drum or a big drum and just banging it. I think what we're doing is we're kind of just, gently waking people up. Which is more beneficial? I don't know. I think the softly approach is. However, then you run the risk of running out of time, and before you know it, you're living in a place that you no longer recognize, with so many rules and regulations. But I don't know. I mean, are we going to see another world war? Probably. Because it just kind of seems to be going that way all the time. Now, I know we do have people who claim to be in the know and have inside information, and whenever something appears that it's going to happen and then it doesn't, we have people saying, oh, our group stopped that. But again, we just don't know. I think all we can do is get the information, share it with people, but I think again we have to fact check everything as well. As an example, just very very briefly, as you mentioned the thing about Hillary Clinton being ejected from the Watergate investigation. No, maybe she was, maybe she wasn't, but just throwing that search into Google brings you up this website, the Snopes website, where they kind of they whatever you happen to hear, they'll tell you whether it's true or false. But according to that, it just says no, she wasn't ejected from it. But it does go on, and I have to say in great detail to let you know that she's not squeaky clean either, and even back then she was corrupt. But again, that goes back to something that you've said, and you said time and time again, about putting the truth in the barrel full of lies. It is very, very difficult to find it. And even when you do find it, because there's so many lies surrounding it, you don't even know if it is the truth. Sheep in wolf's clothing and all that, as they say. But yeah, I think the future is just getting the information, factually checking everything, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and delivering it to people in a professional way. And I think the likes of the Roundtable is doing that. It's just a pity that there are not more people on the chat room joining in the discussion and the conversation, because I think that will be fantastic. But as we've also said before, if our topic of discussion for 2 hours was silly things that cats do, and showing silly videos, we probably have 1 million people on the chat room. But because we're discussing real world issues, that have potential to, we seem to be kind of censored in some way, because I know I've shared the information. I've shared on Facebook the fact that the round table is on, and it just it doesn't seem to go anywhere. I don't even get comments. It's like people are just they're so detached that they just don't want to know.
I think, Steve, based on that, I think people are afraid to actually like and comment, because they're afraid that their Facebook profile would be watched by their companies or the company they work for, because that seems to be going on now an awful lot. And that's why I think that's probably part and parcel of it, because they can't be that kind of naive and ignorant.
People are getting fired for their postings on Facebook, and it has nothing to do with their job, but because their view is unpopular, they're being booted from their jobs. That I find is incredible. And it's happening here in the United States.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, again, it's Big Brother. So that has to stop. And maybe have everybody... See, if everybody starts shutting down the Facebook because of that, then nobody's communicating. So there's a win-win situation. But I'll put this out. We have about 14 minutes left. I'd like to get Detlev's and Michael's take on what massive event would they think would be the best thing to happen for a mass awakening. Michael.
Well, I think before I answer the question, I wanted to go back to that free will thing, which you mentioned before. I think we have to discern that the free will as a potentiality and the reality, because you mentioned you don't have the free will to drive a car without driver's license. In a way, that's correct. But we have the free will to do away with those imposed superstructures. And we have the free will to start, as I mentioned many times, I make advertisement to start the whole life again, to do away with all these structures. And then that's the free will we have. If evil would prevail, we wouldn't have that. It would be would be lost in mechanical kind of decision making, and we would not have the potential even to think that an alternative is possible. So that's kind of thing. But in a way, it's self-evident that evil is trying to produce, or the infrastructure of evil, that superimposed system, is trying to produce any kind of an event which they think they can gain momentum for their agenda. That is self-evident. But there is people in this world with positive thoughts, and our positive thoughts is counting our own disposition in our mind, our mindset. It can counteract. Why do you think? I mean, a whole war would have been already happening if it would go in their will. Of this evil, I forgot to mention all the secret societies and the Freemasons, and how all you call them, the Illuminati and all. Of course, if it would go according to their will, we would have a world war, and people would be much more suffering. But because there is also positive people with their positive thoughts in the world that create a positive, luminous atmosphere around them, that have a different approach how they deal with human beings in everyday life. That is why it didn't happen so far. And I think we have to increase that we have, as I mentioned, that brotherly and sisterly relationship with each other, that affirmative situation which we create, that loving, assisting situation that we deal with our fellow human beings. That is what helps. And as long when we put our thoughts in towards that direction, then I think I have good hopes that this whole world and the human affair can turn out positively.
Totally. I think humanity, I think people have to, when people start taking responsibility for their actions, we won't need laws because they'll be taking responsibility for their actions. That's the problem we have. They're not taking responsibility. So we need laws for these. The nanny state has to be there. But Detlev, I'll just pass it off to you. We've about 10 minutes left. What's your, what do you feel, what event would be required on a global scale to help wake people up?
Yeah, thanks. I would agree a lot with what Michael said, but I think we are already in the process. It is, is it predetermined that humankind is waking up? That is another question which we have not really been answering, and we may not be answering it because we don't know. But it's actually happening already. I mean, if you look at our world, I mean, it's a gradual awakening. Since 2009, most of us were waking up. There are even people who were woken up from the first minute they breathed, and so it's a process, and time doesn't really matter in this perspective, I guess. It's an illusion. We know time is part of this matrix which was put on top of us. But the other thing is will it be a big event? It could be. It could be a big event, like Matt said, maybe a terrible war or disaster or catastrophe, whatever. But it could also be a good thing. I mean, some positive waves, love waves, if we want to say that. I mean, love is the highest force in the world, maybe in the universe. And, it could happen both ways. It's very hard to determine. But I see it gradually growing. And that's why the current system is so nervous. And it's accelerating their tyranny. And by accelerating their tyranny, they are waking up even more people. Yeah. So it's the system itself which is destroying itself, I guess.
They're getting desperate. We are, science is saying, and people are saying, we're entering in the photon belt, and it's a different part of the universe that we're going into, and we are being hit by energy waves. There's a lot of people waking up, and I'm sure we've all come across people that we'd never thought would waken up, and just people that are now asking questions that we probably thought, go back 2 or 3 years, we go, God, I'd never thought they'd be asking questions and looking into this. And all of a sudden, they're waking up and asking questions and saying, what about this, what about that? Now, it could be on a very small scale. But I do believe it's happening. And all of us have been involved in this for a long time. And maybe part of this program or AI, or maybe our soul contract, is that when we came down here, our job was to be involved in this. And that the energy is behind you. We do this, and it's a moral conscience. None of us get paid for this belief system that some people believe that, you have sponsors and you get, loads and loads of donations. No, we don't. Well, not from an OIM point of view. And we do thank the people that do make donations to help, but they're on a very small scale. But whatever the moral conscience is that we have that's driving us, this energy, this universal energy, it's driving all of us. And we just feel we have to do it and be part of it. And I think more and more people are coming out and waking up and getting involved and exposing what's going on. And as you say, Detlev, quite rightly, the cabal are getting desperate. And by getting desperate, what they're doing is they're bringing it forward, and we're seeing the false flags quicker. We're seeing what's going on. As Thomas would say, it's the snake eating itself. That's what's happening. So I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, I'd like to look back at the end of the year when we do our last round table and look back at this year. I think 2008 has been very, very pivotal for the waking up process, even more than any other year. This 2018 has been pivotal because so much, even up to now in this year, has come out and has happened. But we have about 6 minutes left, so I'll pass it around to the table and give us your thoughts on how you feel about 2018. Steve?
Well, all I can say is, I mean, 2018 has been a pivotal, I suppose, for want of a better word. It has been. There's been so much going on. I would like to think that all this is happening because it's absolutely leading somewhere, and at some point in the not too distant future, we will arrive at our destination. I suppose it's like the children in the back of the car. I mean, at this moment in time, now we're the ones going, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" And maybe we are going to arrive there very, very shortly. I would hate for all that's happening in 2018 to just continue again in 2019 and and 20 and all, whatever, because there are energies we can feel energies, and I hope that it is going to amount to something. And as I said before, I would like to see the changes and the utopian society. I would like to see that for me, for my family, for my children, and in the future, hopefully my grandchildren. I would like to see that in my lifetime. I don't want someone to say, yes, you're playing your part, you are making a difference. However, it's going to be another 40, 50, 60 years before everything will come to fruition, because we could be all dead by then.
Okay, Michael.
Well, I think that the evil infrastructure has a big conflict now going on, because on the one side, they have to follow their agenda. On the other hand, through overreaching their agenda, they can expose their real nature, and the mask is falling. So I think we have a good chance that mankind is waking up and chooses the light path, and because I think that is a very serious conflict that this evil side is on now, because they don't respect free will and the free will is a God-given item, basically, and they cannot go about it. That is, they cheated the people against this free will issue. But the positive side is now stressing that free will issue much more stronger. And maybe that's what you meant before from this overall helpful situation of cosmic energies that are now behind that free will energy. Because the positive side wants that human people take a conscious decision towards the good. It should not be somnambulous kind of way. Like a lot of people, they live in a state of consciousness of somnambulance, basically, and we have to wake up and make that conscious decision. And I'm in good hopes that now, with some good examples being set, that I have good hopes for humanity.
Excellent. And before we pass off to Detlev to finish up, Matt, what's your take on 2018 and energies and our role in this?
Listening to you guys, I had a moment to reflect, and that event may have already happened, and it's happened on November 9th, 2016. That was when Trump got elected. Enough Americans were awake, concerned enough, and took action to get to the polls to override the voting fraud that we know takes place in this country. Like him or not, he's made some major changes to our government as far as reducing regulations and reducing taxes to help spur the economy. And through his calling the media out for their lies has people awakened. And they're awakening faster because there's this walk away movement. If you go to YouTube and type in hashtag walk away, you'll see all these video testimonials of people who were once Democrats or liberals walking away from that platform because of the violence they advocate, and it's not inclusive. They either demand you think their way or use some kind of name like bigot, racist, or some such thing. So this walkaway movement is encouraging. So I think the awakening is taking place. I'm glad to see this. He's rocked the boat. He scares the establishment, and you know, I hope he stays alive long enough that some of the changes that we want to see can be implemented if he's not, you know, entirely controlled. So maybe that event occurred. 2018, I think, is monumental, like you say, Alan, because you know, just because people are waking up and they're realizing that their media's resources aren't honest with them. So I like Michael says, he was encouraged. I am encouraged as well. It is monumental, and I think we've got a front row seat to history taking place.
Excellent. And Detlev, if you give us your take, and then what we'll do is quickly go around the table for the contact details for everyone there. Detlev.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Thanks, everybody who participated. In this 2018, we actually saw or are seeing the major change, which will lead to, let's say, the direction which we will be running to. Will we be in a fascism, complete fascism, or do we have the opportunity to get our free will to work? So, you know, 2018 may be important in that matter. So pass it on. Why don't we collect the information?
Okay. Well, Steve, do you want to go ahead and give out the OAM information there?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say that it's been a great 2 hours, a great conversation with a great group of like-minded individuals. And just want to say, with OAM, we are live every Sunday on oamradio.com from 7 to 9 p.m. GMT. You can join in the conversation in our chat room as well. Registration is required, and podcasts are available on the website and are usually available within 30 minutes after the live show. You can also join us on Facebook and MeWe, and do check out our YouTube channel as well. It's OAM Internet Radio. And I just want to say thanks for tuning in, and do it again. And you know, hopefully we'll all be here again for the next roundtable discussion. And also, for anyone who is listening, do check out the UnitedWeStart .org website as well. And please tell your friends about the discussion. And again, podcasts are also available on UWS.
Brilliant stuff. And I'd just like to say the same, that thanks to everybody on the round table today. Great chat, great information, open-minded discussion on all subjects, and it's very important to keep an open mind. And Michael, if you want to give us your contact details.
Yeah, anybody wants to contact me through Wake News, that is Michael at Wake News, Michael at wakenews.com, I think.
.net.
.net, excuse me. And another last thought I wanted to mention is that we have to be alert in one point, is that this cabal is not that is producing cleavage and creates chasms on each other and in the world. So we have to be alert that we're not follow these elements which create cleavage in this world. That's my last thought, basically, to alert people.
Great stuff. Thanks, Michael. And Matt, and then we'll pass off to Detlev to finish things up.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. Great discussion. I appreciate talking to all of you. Great to have you along, Steve. I'm always impressed with the level of discussion that we can have, even though we don't see eye to eye all the time. We can be mature enough to, accept people's differences of opinion. And I think that's helpful in any kind of discourse. So I appreciate your allowing me to spend time with you. My website is nwodor.com, nwodor.com. Go up there. I'm not doing my radio, my podcast anymore for New Old Odor Report. I'm taking a break from that. I've started a band, and so my recreational time is spent working on music. So, but I'll be posting the links to these shows that we have on UnitedWeStart there, so you can check out my website and get links to these shows, and go to the podcast archive. Lots of great information. It's like a library of the New Old Odor, and a lot of health information that is timeless. So it's very great knowledge that you can pick up and use. So until next month, I'll see you then.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matt. And Detlev, we leave you with the last word.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, everybody, for participating. Also, Ole Dammegard, who was participating in the first hour. And contact data are available on the link, which we gave into all Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. So if you're interested, look it up. And we are making shows here at wakenews.net and Wake News TV every Tuesday and Thursday in German, though. But we have lots of information also on our own video channel, which is wakenews.tv. And you can look up also lots of English-speaking fabulous material. So go and have a look. And we're also recommending to look up our YouTube channels, also for UWS, where we are uploading all the shows. We also have a podcast archive on UnitedWeStart.org. And we will be able, most probably, Alan, I guess, to upload the podcast pretty soon after the show. But before we do that, we do have a rebroadcast, and this rebroadcast will start after some music after we have finished this show. So I do thank everybody who participated. You are wonderful people, and looking forward to seeing you next time. And I guess September is coming too, and we will have the second Saturday of each month. That would be 8th of September. Is that correct?
We've just...
I think that's true.
Of September?
Yeah, so the 8th of September. Yeah, that's right.
And we'll see whether the waking up process has already accelerated. Okay.
Excellent stuff.
Okay,
that's brilliant.
Let's do the countdown.
All right.
Okay, let's do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Death to the new world order.
Woohoo! Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
With some music. See you in
Thanks,
September.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
United We Start. We explore the new world order, finance, science, health, and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you.